What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me today for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. Right here, as always, exclusively on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am the Renegade JJ Williams, your host, and today I'm going to be discussing from 2011 Friends with Benefits, starring Justin Timberlake, Mila Kunis, Patricia Clarkson, Jenna Elfman, and Woody Harrelson, and featuring cameo appearances by Emma Stone, Andy Samberg, Shaun White, and Jason Segel. Thank you again, as always, for joining me here today on another brand new episode of Renegades Reviews. And today's film that I'm going to be talking about is an interesting one because it's one of the many times that Hollywood decided to throw two very similar themed movies out to the public at the exact same time. Matter of fact, I was talking to one of my friends at work about this film and that I was going to review it. And he immediately thought that it was No Strings Attached I was talking about with Natalie Portman and Ashton Kutcher. And I told him, no. This one is Friends with Benefits with Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. And he was like, damn Hollywood, always putting those types of movies out at the same time together, and he's right. It's been done many a times. One of the most famous instances I can think of is Wyatt Earp versus Tombstone. We all know what won out there, but again, Hollywood's got a history of doing this type of stuff. But anyways, Friends with Benefits, Justin and Mila. And as the title suggests, this film basically explores the ups and downs of having a casual sex relationship with a friend, a friends with benefits relationship. And for those of you out there who have been living under a rock or whatever, and you don't know what friends with benefits is, basically friends with benefits is a relationship, a sexual relationship that you have with someone, and there's supposed to be no commitment, no feelings involved. It's just strictly sex. Usually between two people who already kind of know each other, that are friends, hence the title, Friends with Benefits. But it's usually two people that already have a bit of a rapport with each other. Maybe they have chemistry, maybe they work together, or they go to school together, or whatever it is in their life that's brought them together. And there's that chemistry, but maybe it's the type of person that you don't want to think of as like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You just want sex and that's it. The problem with that is almost always in a friends with benefit relationship, it never stays just friends. It always ends up somebody catches feelings and the relationship usually ends up going to the next level, and then the friendship deteriorates because you took it away from being casual, made it intimate and romantic, and then things fell apart because you realized that you weren't as perfect for each other as you thought you were. So you have Jamie in this movie, right? Jamie is Mila Kunis, and she's a headhunter, which is a person who identifies, screens, attracts, shortlists, and interviews candidates for jobs, right? Basically, she spots you out there in the world, knows you'd be perfect for this job, and tries to get you in there as quick as possible. And the headhunters usually get a commission for doing this because you've done all the hard work for the companies. Now, Jamie is in charge of headhunting Dylan, who's Justin Timberlake. And Dylan's an art director in LA. So she hopes to land him a position with GQ magazine. As everybody knows, GQ is this huge fashion magazine. Now, he lands the job opportunity. They want to hire him, but he's hesitant about uprooting from Los Angeles and moving to New York. Specifically, his father is in the early stages of Alzheimer's. So Jamie now has to sell Dylan on New York. And she takes him around, and she doesn't give him the touristy version of New York. Times Square, Broadway, Statue of Liberty. She doesn't do all that stuff. She gives him a more intimate look at New York. Her New York, which I kind of akin to my version of Las Vegas. Everybody that goes to Vegas goes there, they go to the casinos, they go gambling, they get drunk. Maybe they go to an adult club. They're there to party. I went to Las Vegas so many times when I was younger, before I was of the age to gamble, that gambling's never really been my bag. So I go to Vegas, and even though things like architecture aren't my bag, like I'm not really into that stuff, I go to Vegas and I appreciate the architecture. I look at the design of the casinos, the exteriors, things like the Sphinx at Luxor, the castle of the Excalibur. Where else in the world can you go and experience Egyptian history, Paris history, medieval history, the Roman Colosseum, all in a couple mile span without having to travel to all these places? So when I take people to Vegas, that's the type of stuff I try to show. It may seem a little bit more boring, but trust me, it's easier on your pocketbooks. So Jamie is trying to show Dylan her version of New York. And she ends up taking him right where a flash mob is breaking out. So they're in the middle of a flash mob. She takes him to this rooftop of a skyscraper, and she compares it to a view of the mountains back where he's from. So he ends up falling in love with her version of New York, and he takes the job. Signs a 1-year deal with GQ magazine, which in turn is going to get Jamie a fat commission, assuming that he stays there for the full year. As a result of all this bonding, of course, they develop a friendship. After all, Jamie is now the only person Dylan knows in New York. One night, after he moves and relocates there, they're discussing past relationships and what their significant others said about them. They decide, after all this bonding and spending time and developing a friendship and reliving old relationships, they decide that they're going to have sex. But only under the conditions that there's no emotional attachment and it remains only casual sex. They agree, and for a while, it goes smoothly. Everything goes according to plan. Then Jamie decides that she wants to go out and date again in the world. So her and Dylan take their foot off the gas, ease on the brakes. They go back to just being friends. No more sex, because Jamie wants to get out there and try and date and find a relationship again. She ends up meeting a man named Parker, an oncologist, and they go out a few times and things seem to be going good. And on the 5th date, Jamie and Parker have sex. The next day, he breaks up with her. Totally runs out on her. She's off getting coffee, if I remember correctly, for the two of them. And she catches him basically sneaking out of the house while she's gone. And when she encounters him there on the street, he breaks up with her, says that he's done. So, he's basically now just used her to get laid. Done with her. Discards her on the corner. So to get Jamie's mind off of stuff, Lorna, her mom, decides she's going to set up a girls' trip for the 4th. Just her and her mom. However, Lorna is a bit of a flake. She decides to abandon her plans last minute. So here comes Dylan with the rescue. He invites her to LA for the 4th of July weekend. Even uses his frequent flyer points to get her a free ticket. Your ticket is paid for. Meet me at the airport. All right, whatever, So they fly to Los Angeles, and Dylan introduces Jamie to his family. His sister Annie, his nephew Sammy, and his father. And just a little side note here. You're going to keep hearing me say his father. They never give his dad a name in the movie. They just bill him as Mr. and Dylan's last name, which I don't recall right now. It's not important. But they never really give him a name. So, multiple times during their stay, Jamie and Dylan both have to remind Annie, Sammy, and his dad they're not in a relationship. They're not boyfriend, girlfriend. They're not engaged. They are strictly friends. And of course, Annie, being a girl, she doesn't buy it. Because according to her, this is the happiest she has ever seen Dylan. So there's got to be something going on. Which, as we know, there is. But it's just not on that boyfriend-girlfriend level. So despite all the trying to convince that they are not a relationship, they're not together like that, they end up sharing an intimate night together while they're in LA. They decide to rekindle their sexual relationship since Jamie and Parker didn't work out. And they end up having sex in LA while staying with Dylan's family. Well, Annie sees Dylan creeping out of Jamie's room. So she starts to have that aha moment, like, okay, now we know something is going on. They just don't want to admit it. So the next day, when Annie is basically interrogating Dylan about the relationship, just pushing and pushing and pushing, Dylan snaps. He says some mean things to get Annie off her back, basically repeating the stuff that Jamie had told him way back when they were discussing their relationships about how damaged she is, blah, blah, blah. Well, typical rom-com fashion, Jamie overhears all this. So she's hurt by the fact that Dylan would do that to her. Packs all her stuff up. She decides she's going to fly home. It's not even the 4th yet, which is why they went out there. So she's going to miss the 4th. Doesn't care. She's flying home. Once Dylan gets back to New York, he tries to reach her, get in touch with her, but she avoids him. 100%. Wants nothing to do with him. She's still pissed. And this is where you can start to sense that maybe feelings were starting to get developed. Because if it was strictly casual and there was no emotional attachments, why is she still so hurt about what he said? One day he ends up finding her, tries to call her phone, goes straight to voicemail. Doesn't even ring. He remembers when they were on top of the skyscraper, she said, that was the one place in New York where you don't get service. So when the phone went straight to voicemail, didn't even ring, he puts two and two together that she's up there, and he goes to the skyscraper. Finds her up there, and they have an argument. She admits to him that she heard everything he said, which is why she bounced, left the place, ends their friendship. Forget about the sex. Clearly, I don't want that from you anymore because I ran out. Now I don't even want to be your friend because a friend wouldn't say those things. Well, some time goes by, and Dylan begins to think, well, if I don't have this friendship, what am I even doing in New York? I can go back home to LA, go back to my family, go back to my father, basically have my old life back. Maybe even a little bit better now because I've done time with GQ magazine. So other people are going to want me. Jamie gets wind of this. She goes and confronts him again at a photo shoot that he's overseen. Because if he leaves before his contract is up, she doesn't get as much of a commission. So now not only is there no sex, not only is there no friendship, but now he's theoretically threatening to hurt her in the financial column. So she goes to this photo shoot, and a huge argument breaks out between the two. Over the next few days, Jamie spends time with her mom, and Dylan meets his dad at the airport. His dad is flying out there to spend a few days. And when he meets his dad at the airport, his dad sees a woman walking by. And he mistakes her for a woman from his past in the midst of one of his Alzheimer's episodes. When Dylan begins to question him about the woman, his dad opens up to him and admits that the woman resembled the love of his life, a woman that he knew prior to Dylan's mother. But he let her get away. And his father basically urges Dylan, don't let that happen with you and Jamie. So Dylan ponders and begins to realize his true feelings for Jamie at this point and calls Lorna, her mom, to try to help him in setting her up. So she agrees and she sends Jamie to Grand Central Station. And she's supposed to meet her mom at Grand Central Station for lunch or something. I don't remember the specifics of the details, but she's supposed to meet her there. She's on the phone with her mom. And all of a sudden, a flash mob breaks out. Just like the one that she had shown to Dylan when he first arrived in New York. The flash mob begins dancing to Criss Cross's song Jump. which is a personal touch because when they were back in LA, Annie was showing her pictures in Dylan's photo album, and there are a few pictures of Dylan during his crisscross phase. So the song ties to them there. And then after a little bit of jump, it goes into Closing Time by Semisonic, which was an inside joke song between the two of them, between Jamie and Dylan. Even going as far as to mistake the song for being a Third Eye Blind song when it was really Semisonic. So this flash mob breaks out to two very personal songs between the two of them. They confess their feelings to each other, share a passionate kiss, and then it's like, well, now what? So Dylan suggests that they go and they have their first real date, like a relationship would. They leave Grand Central Station, go across the street there to Pershing Square Cafe. They sit down for a few moments, not even minutes, moments. They end up knocking everything off the table. They realize they can't keep their hands off each other, and the film ends. I hate to repeat myself, but I didn't really know what to think going into this movie because of Justin Timberlake primarily as one of the main actors. I haven't really seen him act in too much, and I'm not the biggest fan of his music. But I was impressed. This was a very, very fun movie for me. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought Mila Kunis was good and looked amazing in it. I thought that Woody Harrelson did a tremendous job as the gay sports editor at GQ magazine. Really not what I was expecting. Getting to see him even briefly on the basketball court, a la White Men Can't Jump, was a nice little, nod to the past there from him. I thought that was kind of cool. Hearing the Crisscross song in the movie, awesome, because I loved that song when it came out. I still like Crisscross. I don't think they get near the credit they deserve for hip-hop in the 90s in general. Jason Segel, with his very, very bit part as an actor in a fictitious movie that Jamie and Dylan watch periodically throughout the movie. I thought that was pretty funny. Very much angels with dirty faces type of vibe, or whatever it was, the movie in Home Alone, the mobster movie. I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie, though, so much so that I think it's gonna become one that I watch more frequently. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this film and didn't think that I would. Make sure you get out there, get those hashtags trending on social media. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network
For all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself, you can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade J.J. Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today.
Don't forget to get out there, folks. Support, do what the commercial said. Get you your Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood merchandise. The Dad's Not Always on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade J.J. Williams shirt, Statboy Sports Bar, hashtag StatBoyApproved, Meachamania Talk Wrestling, and the brand new designed Jeff Meacham Network t-shirt, looking a very, very 80s reflective, if you know what I mean. You know, roads, where we're going, we don't need roads. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, right here on Renegades Reviews, where we will be discussing from 1997 Soul Food, starring Vanessa Williams, Vivica A. Fox, Nia Long, Irma P. Hall, Mekhi Phifer, and many, many others. I will see you here tomorrow for that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.